Well, Brooklanders, it's time. I've seen Insidious 5. Let's rank all the movies. A franchise that ranges from holy cow, that's amazing, to not good. Not good at all. In last place, I'm going with Insidious: The Last Key, Insidious 4. It is a prequel to Elise's story and doesn't really bring anything interesting to the movie. It feels like one of the least inspired films to do something interesting in the franchise. Elise is an awesome character, but at this point, we're kind of like over her. She's been in 4 movies. I like the idea of exploring her past, but I just don't think this one did it any real justice. The scares are pretty simple, they're pretty straightforward, a lot of basic jump scares that feel kind of cheap. They don't really feel earned the way that a good jump scare does. And I think the plot is not that memorable. If you're looking for the most generic, by the numbers, just scary movie, I think Insidious 4, that's the one. I'd probably give this one this one's like a solid 3 or 4 out of 10. After that, I'm going with Insidious 3. Insidious 3 I respect for at least taking a departure from the Lambert family. And while there are some cool ideas, again, nothing really innovative here. I don't think they were able to capture that magic of the first 2 films that good in this one. The man that can't breathe is not really that memorable of a antagonist. Again, neither really are the scares, very by the numbers. Kind of snoozer if you ask me. Give this one also like a 4. Maybe like a 5. It struggles with being something new without relying too much on the past. I feel like they couldn't really commit to doing something really new. I think we should have gotten rid of Elise, and while it's cool to see her kind of link up with Specs and things like that, again, I would have preferred something completely detached from the Lambert family. I like that this retroactively kind of sets up some more lore for those first 2 films, but I think that it kind of struggles to escape the shadow of its predecessors. In third place, I'm going with Insidious 5, the most recent installment in the franchise. This is not an amazing movie by any means, but it is fine. I enjoyed it. It was solid. I just posted my whole other review on the other channel, so I'm not going to say too much about it. We get Patrick Wilson jumping in the director's chair after being in the first 2 films. I think he did a fine job. There are some really cool executed scenes in this, but there also are some things I don't think were executed as good as they could have been. Some areas I think were a little lacking and requires a little too much of reaching for explanations to things, although they might be justified. Fun movie, a decent conclusion for the franchise, and give this one probably like a 5 or a 6. In second place, I am going to Insidious 2. I think this one is a great example of how to do a sequel. Everything's bigger, the stakes are higher, some of the scares are crazier. It takes all of the ideas from the first film and it expands upon them in awesome ways, in ways a good sequel does. What I like about this film is that it adds to the first film without relying on it, without just piggybacking off of that, kind of how I feel Insidious 3 does. It is a great continuation to the cliffhanger of the Lambert family, and I actually really like the character of Parker Crane and everything with the Bride in Black. That is a super interesting character, and bringing someone from the further into the real world, that is how you expand upon a franchise. In the first film, we heard a lot about it. Oh, they're trying to get in the real world. They're trying to get in the real world. Well, now they are. What's that gonna be like? We get to actually meet Dalton and spend more time with him as a character, and I really like that. We get to expand upon all of the other characters, and again, it's the perfect way to add more lore to the franchise, add more to the characters, and just, I think this is a really well done film. It's shot really well, the soundtrack is really cool. This is a great textbook example of how to do a good sequel. In number 1 though, of course, we have the first film. It sucks that the first film is always the best film in most horror franchises, but that's just the way it is. Let me know in the comments what horror franchises the first movie isn't the best. This film is so unique for its genre. The demon, spooky genre is so oversaturated. This one jumped onto the market and did something different. The atmosphere of this movie is crazy. The soundtrack is crazy. The way that they incorporate different things into the real world, it's awesome. I love that synergy between them. The cast is fantastic. Really great film. The direction is terrific. I love all the stuff with the Lambert family. It feels like, it's one of those horror movies where the characters feel like characters. I feel like Josh and Renee, I'm getting to know them, I'm caring for them in ways that horror movies don't always do. It is a movie about that parents' love, and I like how that theme carries over into the second film. In this film, we see the lengths that Josh and Renee will go for their kid, and in that second film, we get that furthered with Parker Crane and kind of the inverse of that. Kind of a bad example of how that's not supposed to go. It is a film that I think inspired a lot of films that followed it, films like Conjuring, films like Insidious, and I think it's still inspiring demon films to this day. The lore of The Further is cool, it's unique, but still it makes a lot of sense and is somewhat grounded in reality, which I think is a really cool touch. This is a terrific film. It's an amazing film. I'd give this one honestly like an 8.5 or a 9. And that's my ranking of the Insidious films. Let me know what other franchises I should do. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe, all that stuff.